Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We're back working on the Mule Jeep for Mule Fabrication. Please like and subscribe this video, share it, tell people about it. Been busting my butt trying to get videos out, and we are on to the next step. Finally, what showed up is the 4 14-inch ORI struts that are going to be on this beast here. So what I like to do when I start mounting these things, these are already at full bump except that last inch of chrome, which is the internal hydraulic bump stop on these. When I mount shocks, I like to mount the bottom first onto the axle. And I have this axle all shimmed up at full bump, front and the rear. And what I'm going to do is I did a little cardboard CAD right here of the lower link mounts, what I want to do. So I have these set up in here just like this, and this side here is going to be the hardest because I got all the turbo and exhaust here, so I got to make that fit right about there and build upper shock mounts, lower shock mounts, and then we will get into filling these and flexing this out and getting this all dialed in, getting it at ride height, and then this thing will be sitting on its full weight in a long time. Thing's been on jack stands for a while. So let's get after it. Let's cut out some of those tabs that I measured up. We will get all 4 of these bottom struts mounted, and then we will be building the upper mounts here. So that is what this video is. We're going to mount these struts, and then I think I'll make another video on how we're filling these and tuning these. So stay tuned. Let's get after it, guys. Let's start cutting some steel out. Woo! So as I said, my cardboard CAD that I made that I fit on the axle, I got just some 1/4 inch mild steel. I bought just some flat stock to build stuff out of. And I like to just trace it out, and I don't have a plasma table or anything, so we are just going to attack this with a cutoff wheel. Pretty simple. If you're building shock mounts, minimum 1/4 inch. I would not do anything less than 1/4 inch. 1/4 inch or 3/8 for shock tabs and mounts, just because the hole where your bolt's going to go through, you want to have some meat there. So otherwise it'll start wobbling itself out eventually because there's just not enough material to support it. So we're going to start cutting, and you guys are going to go in fast forward mode while I do this. So as you can see, I got all the brackets cut out and ground to the right size for the front and for the rear. So what I'm doing now is I got them clamped together. I'm going to drill a little pilot hole through it. And this little drill press is not big enough to drill a 1/2 inch hole through them. So then I'll tackle them by hand. All the brackets are done. Doesn't look like much, but that takes a lot of work, cutting those out all by hand and drilling them. Let me tell you, if you got the money, buy yourself a CNC plasma table. Makes things a lot faster. Alright, so with these ORI struts, they have offset spacers like this that go into the shock, that the bolt goes in, and that's where you can decide your bolt size. I went with 1/2 inch, but they make a nice spacer for fitting up your lower tabs without having to have the shock there and risk getting any spatter on them, which isn't fun. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run the bolt through here, bracket with the offset spacers to get the right distance. And then we will, just like this, and then we will stick this on the axle and we are going to get it tacked in. We're going to do it on both sides, and then we will bolt in both struts right up in here, and I'll put something up here to hang them so that we can start determining how we're going to build the upper mount. So we'll get this tacked in and we will go from there. As you can see, this is how I built them to fit up in there. So they will sit in here just like that. They will be tied into the tube and that lower link mount, which brings it a little bit further back, the mounting point, because the upper mount I have to make clearance for that turbo system. Okay, I'm gonna tack these up. Let's see how it goes. And for all you viewers out there, I do not recommend welding in shorts, t-shirts, Crocs, but I think I'm a mild professional, so I know where the spark's gonna land and I'm not gonna sit underneath them. All right, so I got this ORI strut bolted in on the bottom, and I was able to just take a string and tie it off to the exhaust here for where I liked it sitting. So I really like this angle back a little bit. It's angled in towards the engine a little bit. And taking a few measurements, I'm not going to be able to do like the standard hoop with my bender and tube like I normally would. So the plan is I'm going to build shock tower out of plate steel, and I'm hoping that the backside of that plate steel will be like a barrier in between the exhaust and the shock on this side to help shield from the heat, because I don't want these things getting really hot. You know, it probably won't hurt them, but you know, just me being over paranoid about you know, getting these shocks too hot, because then the nitrogen changes. They could, this side's getting hot versus that side, it could end up being where they're not sitting level. This one's 50 degrees warmer. So I am going to get my cardboard out and try to make a template for how I'm building these shock towers. I got kind of like a general idea in my head from other ones I've seen online. So I'm gonna get the cardboard out, I'm gonna make a template, and then I will be back to show you guys what I have come up with. Alright guys, I spent way too much time on this cardboard cab setup for the shock tower, but I'll show you what I finally have come up with. I've made multiple different ways, trying to get clearance for everything and getting the shock to sit at the right angle right here. So it's a pretty basic shock tower setup, and then I will mount tabs right in here, and it will fit in just like so. Might have to make a couple of little adjustments on angle, shock, and stuff like that to get this to work just right. But I'm happy with that, so I'm going to break this template down. We're going to cut the parts out, and then we will be fitting it up for real with the new strut. So let's get going. Let's start cutting. So I got this first piece cut out, and I got it sitting right where I like it, and I'm going to tack this in, because sometimes your cardboard template and the actual metal pieces themselves change a little bit. You know, you don't want to cut them all out exactly to the cardboard. So I'm going to tack this main piece in where I like it, and then we will double check with our cardboard and make adjustments as needed, and then we will cut out side plates and tabs from the top. Let's get this sucker tacked in place. Alright, so I cut those, adjusted the cardboard, cut those parts out, tacked them all in place here. Now that's where all that's going to sit, and I got some more cardboard CAD of the mounts where that's going to bolt into place right there. So I'm going to get going on cutting these out, and then we will get back to you on how this is fitting up in here, and then it's going to be copying it on the other side. So let's get going. Let's cut some more stuff out. So there it is. I got them tabs mounted up top. It's mounted on the bottom. And we have the first ORI strut mocked up in this thing. Now we get to copy it over onto this side. Should be a little easier. We don't have all the turbos there. All right, so I got this side mocked up, and like I said, I was coming over here to copy that side, and I actually flexed it out and have the front sitting on its own weight for the first time in a long time. So I gotta now build a crossbar that goes from here to the other shock tower to support it this way. And after that is mocked up, everything flexed out really nice, I will be starting on the rear. Let's go. So what I started doing now is I started bending the crossover bar that goes from the top of each shock mount to the other shock mount. I am going to trim this up to size, and I'm going to swing it over the Jeep, and then we are going to see how it fits on there. It's going to be made so you can bolt it on and off, so you can pull the motor out and the intake off. But these make a big difference for your shock towers. Your shock towers are sitting like this, and all the weight to the vehicle is on there. And if you don't have this, as you're going down the road, it's going to flex those shock towers right at your frame. And you know, you might bend them, you might twist your frame, but that flexing eventually will cause cracking in the frame or cracking in the welds. So we want to eliminate that as much as we can, and that's why we use these crossbars. And those for you who are wondering, I have a JD3 or JD Square Model 3 bender. I've had this bender for 7-8 years now, and I never did like the air over hydraulic or whatnot. I've always just used the manual, just because I'm not doing this for production work. So it is a little bit of a giving her a tug, ratcheting her around. But if I was doing this every day, I would definitely have out of breath. Definitely have air over hydraulic, but this works for just at home building stuff here and there. So I got this crossbar bent, had to make a few little tweaks to it, but that is roughly what it's going to be. You can see it'll clear the hood just fine. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a plate that bolts onto the top of here and welds to the bottom of the tube. So we'll bolt it on here, remove the crossbar to get to the rest of the stuff on the engine. So I'm going to get to making those plates that bolt on the top and drill some holes and get this tacked up and get it fit in place. Let's keep going with this project, one piece at a time. That crossbar all tacked in place. I ended up making little plates here out of some 3/16s, drilled holes in the top of the shock tower and tacked it on, and it is just low enough to clear the hood and in place, nice, and actually turned out pretty symmetrical. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and the front is all mocked up with the ORIs with shock towers, and now we are going to get started on the rear with the ORIs on there for that 4-link setup. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.